Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Property. I'm your host, Cheryl Leong. Today, my special guest is James Monahan from Sell My Home for More, and I'd love to invite James down onto the platform. James, come on down. How are you?
Good, thank you, Cheryl. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. James from Sell My Home for More. Today, our topic is about transforming the horror homes into real diamonds of projects. James, tell us more about what it is that you do with Sell My Home for More.
Yeah, so what we actually do is, we love doing renovations, and a property that perhaps is well beyond its use by date, and perhaps a developer is looking at it and considering it, knocking it over, and perhaps the numbers don't work. So that then, perhaps it does work as a renovation. That's exciting for us to, I suppose, restore a home that potentially had a use by date, and we can go back and transform it and give it a new lease of life and pass on to a new family once it has been renovated.
Amazing. And I know, I mean, you talk about use by date. In my head, use by date maybe needs a little bit of a paint, a few replacements in the roof tiles. I've seen some photos of houses that you consider use by date, and for me, I would probably bring a blowtorch to it or just have, but you've been able to transform some of these homes that like no one would touch.
Yeah.
And I've not, I dare say, I don't know if people have sort of passed away in it as well, but I've seen sort of they would look like someone has, but you've been able to see the value in it and the opportunity, and I'd love to really understand where that sort of experience and knowledge has come from. So maybe let's step back a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your property journey. How did it start, and how that's looked like over the years.
Yeah. So I've been in property for about 14 years, and I took a package from Holden when they were closing down, and they offered some money up for some further education. And I actually did my real estate license course because I had an interest I wanted to be a property person and create passive income through property. And I thought that was the great step in, was being amongst it, and I did the course that way. And through that, was basically I came across a house from one of the other agents who just started, and they sort of give them the worst house that no one can possibly sell. And I was the one who came along and bought that, and that became our first renovation. And that had axe marks and everything, cat food. There was animals living in it. There was, I suppose, it was completely trashed, and that's how I sort of got started into the renovation side of it. What I suppose I find exciting is also it's an opportunity when a house has been left for a while. Perhaps it's abandoned. Perhaps there's a hoarder that's been living in it, and it's quite unsellable for a real estate agent in the current condition. And having sort of made myself known to agents and what we can do, and they've seen the befores and the afters, then I guess they sort of bring properties to us and say, no one can do anything with this one. As you say, it does need a blowtorch, perhaps. Is there anything you can do? And we like to be the people that they come to bring those houses and types of properties to us.
Yeah, and so I mean, before you started in the renovation space, what was your sort of experience in terms of, handiwork or, any sort of that renovation?
Well, I suppose if anyone had met me years ago, not very handy at all. So the first renovation took me and two friends about a year to complete. Now we'd probably do it in 4 weeks. So what became exciting was I actually had a builder, and he would just come in and he would do all the building things, and then I would try and make it look pretty at the end and try and save some money that way. And then eventually he got too busy, and then started teaching me different things, and I became quite handy. And I've just finished my building and construction certificate 4 and then diploma, and that's probably a good thing moving forward. But being handy is probably the downside. Is now I'm actually more on the tools, and I should actually be out there finding the deal, because that's actually where my skill set is, rather than saving some money
Yeah.
on the renovations.
Yeah, and I'd love for us to share some of your projects in this conversation to be able to see some before and afters. But let's talk about, I guess, for you, when you see a property where again it's past its use by date, it looks like it probably needs to, most people will probably want to knock it down. How do you what's that, I guess, that special talent that you have to be able to look past all of the stuff and all of the holes in the wall to be able to say, no, we can do something about this and what we might be able to save for? Like, how do you even determine what it's going to cost to renovate?
Yeah. I suppose part of it's now experience, but prior to that, we would generally, if I buy a lot of houses privately, and what we do is we bring in a real estate agent who's an expert in the area, and we actually ask them, in its current condition, what is the value of this property?
Mm,
Then we, discuss on the different things that we plan to do with it to improve it to it, so it's meets the market needs, and we could sell it, and then establish what the price would be to once sold, and then literally it's just is the margin big enough to explore any further, and then often it is a rough feasibility that we do. Then often it's might do a contract, and then subject to certain things, and then we're getting quotes in to really finalize what it is. So we, as you said, we do see the vision of the property itself, but ultimately it does come down to what do the
mm.
numbers tell us. Is it
Yeah,
close? Is it going to work? And then we move forward based on purely on the numbers. So
yeah,
there's a lot,
fantastic.
lot we'd love to renovate, but it just doesn't make business sense to do it.
And how, I mean, you've done this for quite a few years now. I mean, in terms of your feasibilities and all, how how close are you to your numbers these days compared to when you first started? Are you getting a, I'm assuming you're a lot better, but like
Yes.
generally, are you coming within budget? Are you still finding there are times that, we just blow it because we just don't know?
So we always have quite a big factor of, I suppose, for contingency.
Mm,
So we're actually pretty close generally on all the rooms. It's just some of the additional labour on getting it to that level is where it's often quite hard to tell. And often that's where the budget can move. And often when we're in there as well, we actually have set a scope of works to what value we want to, I suppose, the quality of work we want to do.
mm,
But often when we're in there, so I work with my business partner, Daniel Hedgecock, and he's often there and he goes, what if we did this and this? And every time it always comes off. And sometimes we just got to work out the cost of doing it. We always make money doing it, but that's the cost and time in doing it, because it does, as soon as you make a change midway through a renovation, then there's more cost, more
yes.
time.
Yeah.
So generally we're pretty spot on with our cosmetic only renovations. Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, I'd love to have a look at some of your projects that you've done recently. So I know you've got a little bit of a slideshow for it. So click if you can share your screen and talk us through some of your sort of little favorites.
Yep. No worries. So bear with me a moment while I
Figure out the
put
technology.
my here. Yes. So can you see that there, Cheryl?
Not yet, but it might pop up in a bit.
That's okay. I made one more click, and I think that's it.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Excellent.
Is that an old kitchen there?
So talk us through this particular project.
Yeah. So this is interesting one was, so one of the ladies bought this through a buyer's agent. And so I did a lot of work with the buyer's agent. And as part of the buying process, the owner and the buyer's agent reached out to me and said, look, here's a project that we would think would suit someone like yourself to come in and project manage and help complete the work for the person. And so this is actually in New South Wales. So I live in Victoria and the owner's in South Australia. So the owner never even saw this house. I went there, picked up the keys from the real estate agent, and renovated it from start to finish, and then handed the keys back to the real estate agent, and then sold it. And that was, during COVID and border shutdowns and things like that. And it's come up quite well. So she's actually made she did quite well out of it, and great project around for everybody, in a property she's never seen before.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, do you have some numbers around this? Like, what would it have been valued at in its original state?
Yeah, so it was a normal traditional purpose. So I believe she paid 200,000 for it. Renovation was about 55,000 or thereabouts. So she had obviously some purchasing costs and some selling costs as well. And she walked away with, I think it was probably a little bit under 50,000 with all the ins and outs and things like that on purchasing it. So that was sight unseen. And I'll just do a little video for each end of the week to show where we're up to. And she obviously was very excited about the process. On the next photo, I think it's this. Yes, this is the same house. And the reason it was bought so cheap was obviously the buyer's agent did well. It was a good purchase, but also just things like, I'm not sure if you can see in through here. So there was a water leak in through the bathroom, in through there, and carpets removed. There's holes in walls, trying to work out where the leaks and that were coming from. So no one could actually come in and buy it. And that was, I guess, on market, but they couldn't have open inspections and a cash unconditional offer through a buyer's agent that, reputable, gets the job done. So that offer was accepted, and then hence a good opportunity for I suppose their client. And this is the same property there. So that was a bit of rendering. Just it was an ugly looking property, as you can tell. And did quite well. So that actually sold for, I think, 360 she got for that, and that was probably 8 weeks, and that was quite a bit of that was through that's the next property. Quite of that was through the COVID shutdown.
So did she recently purchase the property, or was that quite a while ago?
So she bought it in, I think, December, maybe November, December of last year. And then we literally probably had the keys for 8 weeks, put it back on the market, and sold it straight away.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
and how did you go about, I mean, noting that it was in a different state, getting the right trades and quotes and all of that? How was that process? How was that managed?
So this was in Albury. So we'd actually done one before where we'd found it and bought it ourselves and did the renovation. So we had, I suppose, a small amount of trades that we had worked with previously. On this one here, I actually did attracted different trades. I went on to some of the Facebook or the marketplace groups and just reached out looking for a renderer, looking for a fencer, things like that. And just local people responded, and couple of quotes, and then choosing the best and most suitable person from there. So it was really a lot of the properties we do are in new areas, so we have to establish a team there, and finding that's quite effective at the moment is just through Facebook and the socials.
The local ones, and you can see. I mean, this is I said it's really brightened up the house. You've obviously taken out that big tree up the front, cleaned up the garden, and it looks fantastic. It looks so much more presentable, and a lot fresher as well. And so, was it pretty much a whole renovation throughout the house?
Yeah. So there was a kitchen. I don't know if I have the other photo. I don't believe I do, but so we actually opened up the kitchen to dining room and put like a bit of a window through to the entrance as well. So that way it's really opened up the living area. And then the bathroom, full bath, laundry, and just a lot of it. The rest of it was just, paint, cosmetic work. I actually sent the tiler through, and he came back and said, "Look, I've never seen a house that disgusting, and I'm not going back until you clean it up," which is that's exciting. When I get excited, because then we can work with the price on that. And then, yeah, fantastic result when he came back and he was doing the work, and how it had been transformed, ready for, I guess, the new happy family to move into.
That's fabulous. You haven't obviously shown us the disgusting photos because it looked pretty tame when you took a photo of the
Yeah,
kitchen.
I wasn't sure whether, yes.
What level of
Yeah, I'll show you the next one, and this one has a bit of a story to it.
Yes. Oh
So,
my goodness.
so there's quite a few stories with this particular one. So when I actually negotiated this one for about 9 months before we finally put paperwork in place, just because of the, I suppose, the owner situation and their living circumstances and things like that. So as you can see, yeah, there was a fire in the front room. We're not exactly sure what the cause of that, but we thought we believe it was an unpaid debt at the time. We found a lot of drug paraphernalia in the house when we were cleaning up. We needed two, I suppose, how would you describe this? Probably 20-meter cube skips. So it's literally a whole house, probably a foot high of just rubbish and clothes and just junk in there. There was no running water because the pipes were stolen to be sold. There was no electricity because I'm not sure exactly why no electricity. There was no gas because someone had ridden over the gas meter at the front. There was a hole in the ceiling because when they were stealing the copper piping, they didn't put those roof tiles back. And so we've walked into this, and before I've walked in, the gentleman's had I suppose a representative, and he said, "Look, this is a current affair stuff, so just watch your step, and see if you can help us out." And actually,
So what was the
since then,
situation? Like, was it an investment property, or was it whoever, or was it owner occupied?
so it was owner occupied with some other people in there, and they were sort of heavily, how would I describe? Yeah, into the drug scene. So
Drug
all the
induced.
money was going to that, and unfortunately, they'd let the house go, they let themselves go, and they would, just looking now for a new chance to move on.
Mm. So
So
I mean, were they living with it in that condition?
correct, yeah. So yeah, we went through, and on the day it was like that, there was people sleeping in bedrooms and things like that. So what we did is we put paperwork in place, and like straight away I had to buy the owner a phone because he didn't have a telephone. We helped buy him a car. We helped him move to the next place, helped pack up all the possessions, and then literally everything that was there, we had shopping trolleys. There's I think there's 14 shopping trolleys we took back to the shops that were at the house. But I guess we had to help him move on to his next stage of life whilst we're renovating, give him some money. So we actually put down a $10,000 deposit on the day, which we released to him to solve his living problems, I suppose, until settlement occurred.
And so when you go into a place like this where, you've got, there's an OH&S issue there, you know,
Yes.
drugs and all of that, like what's the sort of equipment that you have to go in? Because I'm assuming if you're dealing with, I don't know what you're dealing with, if you've got needles and all sorts of things.
Yeah, there's hundreds of them we uncovered, unfortunately. So basically I was the person who put my hand up and said that I'll go through first and go through and clean out all the rooms safely before anyone else came in. So we cleaned all that up, safely disposed of everything that we needed to separately, and then loaded the skip up with just the rubbish. And then from that time onwards, then we could, other people were available to come on site and play their role.
Wow. This is stuff that I would have, I thought you'd only find like in Detroit in the
Well,
US, because I had a property in Detroit. It looked sort of like this.
yeah,
And
okay.
people were stealing copper pipes.
Yes, depending on the area, I've had plenty of them stolen. I've renovated houses, then had them stolen, then replaced it again while we're trying to sell it, then had them stolen again. So,
Wow,
yeah, some areas are subject to those sorts of things,
it happens.
unfortunately.
So in
It does
terms of
happen.
the house itself, I mean, did it have good bones apart from the fact that it's been partially burnt and
Yeah, so yeah, it did actually. It was quite surprising. So we original idea was we're just going to go in, clean it up, get the power connected, get the gas connected, just leave it as a shell, and then another renovator would come in and then pay us more. So we might just shuffle little bits of paper, spend 3 or 4 days cleaning it up, and then make a bit of money that way. Then once we cleared it all out, the building inspector came back, did another inspection because he couldn't really access everything first time round. And then, yes, discussed it with the business partners, and we said, look, let's do this. Let's go the whole hog and get this one done. And we actually sold this one. So from the day we signed paperwork to the day it actually settled to the new owner. So that's us renovating it, finding a buyer, I guess them getting finance and then settling. So we had it for 61 days and sold it for 180,000 more.
fantastic. And what was the renovation cost and removal
Uh,
and everything?
it was about 63 or something like that.
Okay, wow.
And that was probably 3 or 4 weeks because fortunately the owner knew the property and said, look, we want the backyard. So it was, didn't even have to advertise it, and we just went straight through, and we'd had a real estate agent who just put the paperwork together for us.
Fantastic.
So
Great
not always.
outcome.
We've sold a few to the neighbours actually. So,
Excellent. And the original owner obviously was finally able to sell their property through you, which
yeah,
any other situation you might not have been able to sell it at all, really,
that's right.
without him having to put.
That's right. And I suppose we came clear on the desperateness of the situation, and that's why we organised a release of the deposit. I actually was giving him money a couple of times just to get him through to our next meeting, I suppose. But yeah, then once settlement came through, then he got his large sum of money, and then not sure exactly what happened, but I know that unfortunately probably didn't last very long, and that's sometimes that's
a sad situation. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at a few more.
Yep. So that's probably a better photo as well. So this one. So actually, the house I just showed you with the burnt lounge room. So a guy found me on I was doing some marketing at the time and came across me. Then he actually rang me up and said, "Look, I've found another one. Another friend of mine's desperate and needs a hand as well." And so this is the second house. So this is what we went in and did, was open that all up, and that sold quite quickly and quite well as well. But the situation with this one was going through a separation, had children that were unruly and sort of people living in the house that weren't supposed to be there, and just completely trashed the house. And he reached out to us, and what we had to do was, because it was a divorce, we had to make sure that they'd had their agreement in place. It was very clear on what the value of the property was, what each party was going to receive, and when they were going to receive it. And then that way, that was all crystal clear and all legally organised before we could even step in and consider, doing what we wanted to do. And in the end, we just purchased it outright. Often we'd like doing joint ventures with the owners to save on settlement costs, but based on the complexity of the divorce situation, we just came in and put in an offer and purchased it. And this was over in Adelaide, so we spent a bit of time. So I'm in Geelong, so travelling across there to complete this one, and just looking at the kitchen there, how we've opened up that wall. And that's an example, as I mentioned before, where we had a budget and a vision in mind, and then once there, I guess opening it up created a whole new perspective for the property and a new price range, and managed to achieve that quite successfully, and sold it for more than we'd expected. And so some of the numbers on that one, so we probably sold it for about 200,000 more than, maybe a fraction more, 220,000 more than we purchased it for, and it's probably about 110 spend, so a bit more than we normally like to do, but did need some structural
Yeah.
work.
I was gonna ask whether you needed to get structural work done because of that beam across the top there. I
Yeah.
mean, the transformation is incredible. When you walk into a property like that, and again, I look at that and I go, "Oh my goodness, how do people live like that?" But obviously there are people that do. I mean, do you actually envisage the second image in your mind when you walk in there? You sort of go, "I think this is possible."
At the start, normally I'm just trying not to contaminate my hands and my
Yes, I was
eyeballs. I
gonna
want to walk out and because a lot of places, unfortunately, like this, there might not be running water, and then so the toilet's still being used, things like that. There's the oven switched off, or the fridge is sitting there with full of old food, things like that,
stuff
which is,
living out of it.
it's tragic. And
Mm.
sometimes it's a one breath walk around where you hold your breath, you run around, you head out the back door, and then you take a second breath and go in. So having it look like that, now we know, I guess, cosmetically how we can get it, but it's usually once we're in there, and then we have a bit of time to really work out, like things like opening it up or moving a room. That takes. It's not the first time around normally. No, it's
Mm, mhm,
we need
mm.
a bit of
And
time to feel the house, I suppose.
and so for something like this, how much were you personally involved, like hands-on on the
Yeah,
tools?
so it really depends on the number of projects we have at the time and then budget we have. So this one, because we made the changes to spend more money, so I became more hands-on. So of the 13 or so weeks this one went for, I was probably in Adelaide for maybe 6 or 7 of them, and I'd typically drive across for a week to 10 days and then be pretty hands-on. And
Yeah,
hands-on, I mean, I've got my gloves on and tool bag and working hard.
paint rollers and everything as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's,
it's a fantastic outcome. It's just it's incredible just what a different and how you've been able to open that up as well. It's a great outcome. Um, are there more to see? I'm really enjoying this because I love transformational images. Is that the
yeah.
same
So
property?
one of the same house, yeah. So the tree is still there in case anyone's wondering. A lot of people always like the tree to stay. So we just rendered that one, painted the roof, a little bit of basic landscaping. So was the main bedroom.
Mhm.
It's a little small, apologies, that's the backyard.
So just a question about render. Why do you choose to render as opposed to painting bricks?
Depends on the area, I guess. So I was painting bricks originally, and then I just like the finish.
Mm,
It's a little cleaner, and generally we work with the agent. The agent will just give us a bit of an idea of paint or render. What's the best move forward?
mhm.
And depending on the value of the property in the area is what sort of feedback they get. And so we don't render too many, but they look fantastic once they are done, and we can
Yeah,
pick and color as well.
absolutely.
It,
Um, so that's the lovely backyard with the
it is, yeah.
before.
Yep, I'm not sure. So this is
Oh,
another one here. So this was so we had a real estate agent. He probably sold about 12 for us, and then he rang us up and said, "Look, I've got a lady. The daughter was living in the property. The property's been let go. They've had a falling out. Now it's time to sell. We can't sell it in the condition it's in. Too much stuff. This swimming pool is actually inside of the garage. So obviously the green on the top photo. Yeah, so that's the garage, and that was pretty funky, to be honest. And
Yeah.
this is probably one of the better parts of the house. So just a bit unimaginable, but yeah. I suppose it was exciting for us. So the agent said no one else can come in and buy it. So we came in, chatted with him on what his thoughts were on a fair price. So we offered that, and we did a joint venture with the owner where they had needed some money to, I suppose, solve a few of their financial problems, which we organised straight away. And so, it's a deposit or an option fee in this case. And we'll release that to them, solve their problems. And we made sure that, so it was a $1 option, and we put some other money in advance, and that money actually we made sure it went directly to where it needed to go. So we, got an authority to chat with the bank to make sure the payments for the bank, the electricity, rates, water, things like that. And we set up payment plans to make sure they were all paid on time and as required. And then we jumped in and did the renovation. And it was a great summer, actually. The kids came, this was in Adelaide again, so kids came across and they spent, most of the, a month or two during the summer holidays in the swimming pool. So that was one of the first things we made sure we got done.
Yes, because I can imagine Swamp Thing sort of walking out of that thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And so
And
some of the numbers on this one were, sorry to cut you off, Cheryl,
no, you go
paid
ahead.
or agreed an option price of 185. I reckon it was about I know we walked away with 92,000 at the end, and we sold it for 350. And same thing. The neighbour said, "Look, sing out when you're ready to sell it. We want our kids to move in closer to us." So now every time we go to a house, we make sure we say hello to all the neighbours, because had some successful sales that we didn't need an agent for because of these people wanting
the relationships with the neighbors. And if you can talk a little bit about how you structured that deal through an option. So it sounded like you needed to be able to organize some payments with the bank and so on. Why an option and not some other form of contract of sale or whichever? Because I'm assuming with the option, because you're paying money to the bank also, your funds are at risk.
Yes. So I guess to answer that, the first property I found that someone was willing to, let me have control of it and make payments to, take hold of it. So I guess an option fee or some money up front. And then I just said, look, I'll make the payments on the mortgage payments moving forward. And then I organised a period of time for that to go or to last for. So that was an option. So I did the second one, and that was an option. And then so I just keep pulling the same pieces of paper out, and that's why it became an option and nothing different from that.
Right.
And I guess part of that option agreement was, it was a $1 option up front. And then what we did is we started, because we weren't going to back out on it, because we were going to put money towards this renovation. So we made sure we had power of attorney. We lodged a caveat. And then part of that power of attorney, obviously, we got authority to make sure, and we were actually making payments on the owner's behalf. So we were paying it, but it was actually coming off their money at settlement, because they still had ownership of the property. And as a result, that was the option, and that's how we structured it.
Yeah, it's a great outcome there. So they were still getting payments made. So in a sense, that was almost like your deposit anyhow towards it.
Yeah.
And so do you structure it as a call option?
Yeah, so it's always a call option for us. So, yeah.
And in that situation, like in terms of you doing these sort of renovations or structural things during an option, how do you and the owner protect themselves? Say, for example, in a situation where you sort of go, all right, halfway through, nah, change my mind, too hard, tools down.
Yeah. So that question often gets raised by the vendor or the vendor solicitor when we're chatting with them, and they said, what if you walk away? And if that's the case, then often it may be a bigger deposit that they require in order to make it happen. And I guess I've done enough now where they can actually chat with people who we've worked with before, how well it's worked, and how we've, I suppose, the final product that has been delivered. And generally, I don't normally renovate. I don't know many people who would renovate someone's house and then walk away. So I often say that, and they go, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." So in order to protect ourselves, I guess they still have ownership, and then in that paperwork, if either party's in breach of that, then obviously then you have a certain number of time to notify them to modify, I suppose, that breach, and there's a process beyond that. But ourselves, I'll make sure we have the legal agreement, like an option. We have power of attorney. We have authority to act on all the everything to complete the sale of the property, and then we lodge a caveat as well.
Yeah, and I'm assuming also that it's a restricted sort of a power of attorney to be able to make those payments on the vendor's behalf.
Yeah,
towards the
it's
lender.
restricted to the property only.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I mean, this sort of shows to people and gives people ideas as to how they can create solutions around situations which are not clear cut. Right. So obviously this is a complex situation where you've got people who still want to be partnering up in some way. And they've also got difficulties being able to sell the property. So I see there's a lot of a win-win happening there. Like you're saying, your skill is that negotiation side of things to be
Yeah,
able to bring
absolutely.
this together. Mm.
Yeah.
Um, would love to see. I mean, are there any more that you'd like to show to us? Because I'm
I'm
finding these. I'm actually enthralled with the
yeah.
before and after.
These are the ones I've prepared for you. I thought they're probably the most impactful ones.
Yes.
A lot of the other ones probably aren't that much of an impact. So that's probably what I had prepared for
Yeah, no,
us.
that's absolutely fine. I think that's it's really good to see again, like what's possible. And even for the prices that you're talking about, under 200,000, and then being able to sell for, more than twice those amounts. Like it's really achievable. I think particularly for those in the community that are looking at prices in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane now, where average prices are 800 plus. Looking at how can I get into the market? How can I be doing this development stuff for property investment? But you're obviously finding these deals. What are
Yeah.
the tips for people out there saying, for you to be able to say, how do you get access to these deals? What are your tips around
Yeah.
constantly having deals in your pipeline?
So there's probably a number of things there. So one, I suppose, is the network that you do have, and the importance of I suppose, doing one renovation and doing it well, then having the confidence in yourself, and then agents around you having confidence because you can actually show them, said, look, this is what we've been able to achieve. And then, tell them, you're in the market and you have the ability to either purchase it or, I suppose, different other ways of solutions for the property homeowner. And really, I suppose, building that relationship with them so that way, when something does pop up that perhaps needs an alternative solution, that they think of you, and you can be the first person to pop around and decide whether that's something that does work for yourself and how you can create it to work for that homeowner. Alternatively, I do a bit of marketing as well to attract, I suppose, people that are looking to sell. Also to, I suppose, recently we've been doing some with it where developers have bought the front house and they're subdividing the backyard off, and they'll make all their money in the backyard and probably don't really, or potentially don't want to be too involved in renovating the front house, but do want to be able to sell it for as much as possible when the timing's right. So they may have a tenant in it for a bit, and then once the subdivision's going through and they're ready to get titles, then they'll, we're sort of jumping in and, either funding the renovation and doing it ourselves, or they'll give us a set budget and sort of say, do what you can for this, and then away we go, jump in and we do our thing, and they can get the result thereafter as well.
Yeah. So, lots of people out here doing lots of subdivisions, like you said, keep the front house. Where do you operate? You mentioned Adelaide, Victoria, anywhere
Yeah,
else?
yeah, we're doing some things in New South Wales as well, and that's purely because of logistics. We've, my business partner Daniel, so he was in Queensland and looked at a couple of properties, and we've put offers on them up on properties up there as well. So we're willing to travel and make everything work. I suppose having the experience on what is required, and then it's just really is building that team and being well prepared that during the settlement process, or perhaps the lead in, creating the team of people who can get the job done to the quality that we require.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure. I have you've got a comment here. Hey, James, good on you for sharing your expertise. Um, Absolutely. Again, I think for you, you've got a strong stomach to go into some of these properties that no one would touch, but obviously you're reaping the rewards from it. But helping other people as well. I think that's the key here. A lot of the stories are around helping people who wouldn't be able to do anything with their properties otherwise. And I think that's a really great outcome that you're able to achieve for everyone involved as well. So anyone out there that's listening, if you've come across some really crappy, really dilapidated properties and you're thinking, no way, have a chat to James. He might, he might be able to do something there. If people want to get in touch with you, James, and have a chat or even look at some collaborations, um, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
I think we probably through Facebook would be fine. So I guess obviously there was a link that you shared beforehand. It's got my name there, and my face is on there. And reach out on Facebook. Love to have a chat and through Messenger. And happy to have a phone call if you did want to.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very,
Yeah,
very much, James. I look forward to the next project, the next update. Always the great ones are the cringeworthy ones before, and then to see what they turn up to at the very end. Someone else has mentioned, I've seen some of James's deals on Community. He sees benefits that others don't on most of his deals. Thanks for sharing, James. Appreciate your time. Absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining here. I hope that's created a little bit of inspiration as well to be able to go, right, um, don't mind getting your hands dirty and just looking for those opportunities, find solutions all the times. I think that's the thing that you obviously enjoy doing, James. And we'll probably see you again next time with a few more updates.
absolutely. Thanks very much for having me, Cheryl. I'm glad some of the people got some, interesting facts and see some of what can be done to some of the properties that they haven't perhaps thought of before. So thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
absolutely. You take care of yourself. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and be well. We'll see you next week on the business of property. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.